all that being said, are you religious?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm an ordained minister. I don't know if you know that.
So you can marry somebody.
Yeah.
My brother Anthony's ordained minister.
Nice. Yeah. You call me Reverend Mitchell G. Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's not even that I think. I practice as though I was an ardent Christian. I behave as though I was an ardent Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
And I am disciplined as though I was an ardent Muslim. So I try to maintain a certain foundational discipline just as a human that is echoed through every religion, but is more prominently echoed in certain religious sects, S.S.T. And I truly believe Christianity, that's what separates it from nearly every other religion, is the amplitude in which it articulates certain fundamental beliefs like living in truth. Do you feel like you try your best to live in truth?
I try and look at myself in the mirror, especially when there might be some situations where I'm not correct. You know what I'm saying? And I had to, like I said, I reach out to other individuals and you know, see what they think. And a lot of times I can answer my own question,
right?
You know, but it's just getting reassurance, you know,
reassuring that sanity,
right? Exactly. Right. So I try my best to live in truth. You know, it's a struggle. You know what I'm saying?
We're human.
Yeah, we're exactly.
Right.
So, but yeah, to answer your question in short.
I ask that nearly rhetorically because I think it's evident in your efforts, just in your optimization. Like you being as optimal as a barber, just in your skill. Like, dude, to be good at anything requires a level of transparency with yourself to identify where you may not be perfect. And in being a harsh critic on yourself, almost like being a high-level athlete, you constantly find new ways to be better. And again, you can't really do that unless you live in truth, because the truth will tell you, yo, that lineup is not lined up. Yo, that skin fade is not faded in properly. Yo, where's the gradients and all this extra? I'm just starting to use like barbershop words.
There you go. On point.
Nice. But it's like, you can't even get to that point of skill in anything you do, let alone a skill like cutting somebody's hair, unless you somewhat do your best to live in truth. Because if you don't, the product will speak for itself.
Most
right?
Definitely. And no offense to anybody coming up in the, you know, barber game, but there are some people coming up that are kind of like that, but they need to take a step back. You know what I'm saying?
Humble themselves.
Yeah, just humble yourself, bro. Like everybody starts, you know, somewhere. You know what I'm saying? The fade might not be right, but you know, you got to just practice. You know, practice. You know, same with a lineup. You might think it's easy to make a straight line, but a lot of people, you know, it's hard for them to draw a straight line. You know what I'm saying?
To write in a straight line.
Exactly.
Right.
So this shit, it takes practice, bro. And, you know, for some, it could, you know, you can either decide to keep going and keep practicing, or that could just be it, you know. And, you know, you just probably never do it again. And it might not be for that person, that certain individual, you know, they're just getting their feet wet and seeing what they want to do even, you know what 100%. I'm saying?
Just don't delude yourself into thinking you're some hot shit when you haven't put in the time to qualify as someone who's done hot shit.
Right, exactly, because that's not cool. Nah. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if you're talented, it's like, even if you're talented, hard work's gonna beat that talent when that talent ceases to work hard.
All day.
So are you familiar with the stat about businesses, like 90 to 95% of businesses fail, of startup businesses fail?
I'm not aware.
Okay, so it's like somewhere between 90 or 95% of startup businesses always fail. And it's because they're startup businesses.
Right.
But the businesses that inevitably succeed were eventually, or at one point, part of that 90 to 95% that failed. And the difference is, who got back up, dusted themselves off, and tried again.
That's all it's about.
That's all anything's about, shit. Right?
Yeah, that's all it's about, bro. Like, I'm sure for you, this wasn't just the first idea, like, I'm going to set up this podcast, you know what I'm saying? Or it might have been, but, you know, getting there was probably, you know, a bumpy road, you know what I'm saying? And trying to get everything that you needed to make it happen, you know? And then shit, sometimes it might feel like it's so out of reach, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, you might stop and then come so, like you said, if you get back up and try again, that's what it comes down to. That's what it boils down to. If you can, if you can pick yourself back up and decide to try that shit again, you take another step closer to the end goal.
Right.
So
it's about endurance at that point.
Right.
It's about how much failure and hardship can you actually endure.
Right. And at this point, like I'm at the point, and I'm sure you are too, like it doesn't matter how many times I get knocked down, I'm gonna keep going, getting back up no matter what. Because this is what I do, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure this is what you do.
Oh, yeah.
So
are you familiar with are you religious at all?
So growing up, went to church all the time. I mean, to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
So I try and stay tapped in, especially now, spiritually.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the story of Job?
You probably had to enlighten me.
Yeah, so and I'm sure I'm sure once I refresh you on it, it will be.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah. My mom, she's up on all of it. Nice. So she keeps us, educated.
Is there a specific,
for the most part,
is there a specific denomination?
Like
Christian. Catholic, but like Catholic, Protestant. Do you know if there's a specific denomination within Christianity?
Nah.
Okay, it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Protestant then, because usually Catholics are ardent Catholics. Like they're
I know it's not Catholic.
Okay, so then probably just Protestant. Yeah. And within Protestantism, you have like a bunch of different a bunch of different sects, SECTS, right? Gotcha. The reason I asked that is the story of Job. It was the story of. It's funny because it's a story of a man and his God. That phrase, "a man and his God," is the Sumerian title for an older story that nearly parallels the exact narrative of Job. What I mean by that is in the Bible, you have a story called the story of Job, right? Mm-hmm. Job was this man who had everything in life. And essentially the devil went up to God and said, "And I guarantee you I can corrupt one of your people." God was like, "Listen, fool, first of all, how did you get up here? Like, Get the fuck out of here, right?" Mm-hmm. And so God literally said, "I guarantee you can." In fact, I know somebody who's so devoted to me, who has so much in life, that if I test him, I guarantee you he'll maintain his devotion to me.
Oh yeah, this is coming back now.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So this story, the story of Job, right? The Sumerians had a near paralleled narrative called "A Man and His God." And in this narrative, it's about a demon, but in the Sumerian sense, a demon was just a spiritual figure. Mm-hmm. So you can have good demons and bad demons. Mm-hmm. So it was a good demon who was challenged by the bad demon who said, "I guarantee you, your goodness can't prevail in the face of my wickedness," essentially. And so, I'm going on the story of the Sumerian version, and you're going to see how it parallels to the story of Job, especially if you already have the predisposition. It's starting to sort of like make sense.
Right.
So what happened is this man, this unnamed man in Sumerian folklore, who's equivalent to Job, is chilling with his family on his farm, not bothering anybody. And God strikes him down, destroys his farm. Mm-hmm. Job's like, "It's okay, I still believe in God." And then gets tested again, kills his family. Job's like, "It's okay, I still have faith in God."
Yeah.
Strikes him down again, gives him sickness. In the Sumerian story, we have fractions of the actual tablets, which means we don't get the entire context of the details of the story. So in the Sumerian story, it doesn't go into very crucial details any more than the actual moral of the story that's in the story of Job. But in the story of Job, Job has, I think it's 4 of his friends come and witness him in dismay getting his life ruined. And they're pretty much like, "Bro, just come on. Like, don't have faith in God. He's effing you up. Why would you have faith in him? Look what's happening to you." And at one point, Job almost started questioning whether or not he should continue to believe in God. But ultimately, his faith and his endurance in that suffering, by the end of it, God rewarded him 7-fold in everything he had before.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the story?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So in the Sumerian story, what it ends with and concludes with is, by the end of the day, a man maintains his faith with God. That's why the story's called "A Man and His God." Mm. Ancient stories, they used titles called incipits, and an incipit is just a title that is based off of the first few words of whatever passage it is.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Genesis, where does that come from, right? It's like, what the heck does that word even mean? In Hebrew, it's the term Bereshit, and Bereshit in Hebrew literally means in the beginning. So you see how, you see what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
So Bereshit is just an incipit for the title for the first 3-4 few words within the beginning of whatever scripture you're reading. So the story of Job in Sumerian folklore is just titled A Man and His God, because the beginning of that story is a man must always maintain devotion to his God. And so that's the incipit for that story. But deep down, it's the exact same narrative as the story of Job. And at the end of that Sumerian story, the bad demon essentially is rid of his life because he maintained his faith in his God. Mm-hmm. And then God puts a good demon in his life for the rest of his life, and he's blessed forever from that point on.
Right. That's just coming down to having that faith, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day.
Prevailing with that endurance due to that faith. So
right.
I didn't mean to go on a little ramble.
No, it was dope. It's dope.
Nice.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, man. Speaking of that little rambles and, well, I guess not speaking of little rambles, but
I got little rambles for days.
Oh, I know. I'm being here.
Yeah,
we be rambling. We be working out.
Tell them it's no different on camera than off camera.
No, this is not. It's not a game. This is real life. This is real.
That's
life.
why. So like, that's why I think the intensity is almost too much for people, because they think this is a game, and it's like, bro. After a certain point, you establish yourself for who you are. You set the tone in reminding yourself in who you are, and you won't want to turn back.
Right. For what?
For what? But anyway, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna really just ask on the level of knowledge that comes with the Bible, or that you have researched into the Bible. Like, what has brought you to that point of, of 1, 2, trying,
like the point of interest,
right?
So like, to summarize your question, what guided me, or what was the influencing factor to cause a point of interest within like religious study?
Correct.
Essentially, is that not overwording your?
Huh?
That's not overwording your question, is it?
No, that's actually a lot. That's on point right there. That's on point.
Okay, good. I don't want to put words in your mouth, right?
No, that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, nice. So, have you ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Interstellar. That's when they go into space.
Yeah.
That's on some deep shit. That's like some fourth dimension shit, right?
Fifth dimension.
That's deep.
It's funny because the idea behind the fifth and fourth dimension and stuff, I legit was in high-level calculus in college. Mm-hmm. And in high school, I was in calculus 1 and 2, which is an introduction to how mathematics actually shapes the world, like the actual implication of how mathematical equations inevitably influence physics, right? Mm-hmm. It's how you legit will build a bridge is using calculus, essentially. So I got introduced to the actual applicable mathematics that in algebra, you're wondering, yeah, when am I going to use y equals mx plus b?
Right.
When am I going to use this algebra in my life, right? Like, people ask that justifiably so, with the basic rudimentary knowledge within basic algebra and geometry, right? But calculus is a unified mathematical formulation utilizing both geometry and algebra. So without going too far into it, calculus was the first time a teacher was able to actually answer why we would use this math in real life. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Within calculus, or while I was taking calculus, I got to the point where I started getting interested in like quantum physics and quantum dynamics. And all quantum physics and quantum dynamics, all that is the study of the science of the small molecular world. So the world's smaller than atoms. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's smaller than atoms? That's quantum physics.
Okay.
And we can actually measure with certain mathematical formulas in practice, meaning if we have a mathematical formula that tries to measure, let's say like force equals mass times acceleration, right? That's a proven mathematical formula where force is equal to some mass multiplied by its acceleration.
Right.
Like if you're throwing your combos, your twos get nasty because you maintain a disciplined physics in the mechanics to where the full force is heightened by the by the optimal acceleration in the proper mechanics. When you twist your back foot, you get your hip involved, right? Which is why your mass is the same. It's just your hand. But the force increases when the acceleration is more proper. Does that make sense? When the mechanics is better. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So when I started getting interested with the actual applicable mathematics that substantiates how the world fundamentally operates, I started getting into what's known as quantum physics, quantum mechanics. And within quantum physics and quantum mechanics, you can get into certain concepts and ideas and theories known as like string theory, M theory, and all these different postulates that talk about multiple dimensions and talks about higher dimensions. And Interstellar kind of tickled that idea when it talked about the fifth dimension, right? And so I'm getting this interest simultaneously when this movie comes out. And when this movie came out, I immediately started like blowing all. Okay, I ain't gonna word it like that. All my friends' minds started getting blown. All my friends.
Good decision.
See, words matter. All my friends like were very interested with like the woo-woo, like almost like stoner science of like this fifth dimensional black hole stuff, right? But I was such a nerd that I actually understood some of the principles underlying it. And then I did my own due diligence to try to actually understand quantum physics to some fundamental level. And in doing that, I started learning truly how dimensions operate and function from the smallest 0 or one-dimensional point all the way up to the highest, what we can mathematically quantify as the 10th or 11th dimensional singularity. I know, it's like, Mitch, what the fuck are you even saying? Trust me, I know. My point is, in knowing that there's actual science underlying certain like interesting stoner-like philosophies like the fifth dimensional stuff within Interstellar, I used that as an opportunity to surprise my friend group with the knowledge I had and some stuff that they were interested in, but it was an attempt through an actual substantiated lens of credible information. It wasn't just some stoner talk, right?
Right.
So as a result of that, I'm sitting here typing out. My boy Evan texts me middle of the night, like midnight. I'm assuming boy was high, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm assuming he was like drunk, high, something.
Why you texting me right now?
Yeah, why you texting me right now? And you know what he messaged me? Hey, bro, I'm over here talking to my boys about the fifth dimension. Can you explain that again to me? And I'm over here like, you want me to explain this on text?
Right, nah, I'm not doing that, bro.
So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, well, how? Einstein said if you know anything, you should be able to explain it to a kindergartner, right? Like if you truly are well-versed in any topic. Right. So I'm like, maybe I could word this over text real quick. All right, well, so the fourth dimension is kind of like, well, the third dimension is kind of like, well, you know what 2 dimensions is? Okay, well, let's start with 1 dimension, right? So I went all the way back to like 1 dimension. And I'm in this text typing out for over an hour when I got to the point of looking at it, over an hour, where I have this fat, long message. And after I look up and see it's been an hour, I go, oh my, I copy it, cut it, put it in my notes, and then I continue it in my notes. So now I'm not even answering my boy's question.
Right. I wouldn't.
Right. This small little like thesis was the blueprint, the bare bones of what my book eventually ended up becoming, because that thought process of what the fifth dimension even is asked me then, well, then what is heaven? Because if fifth dimension is a higher dimension, does that like heaven? And then I started asking these biblical questions. And then in the biblical curiosity, it led me down a path where I was like, well, now I have to read the Bible.
Right.
And then when I read the Bible, it goes down an even deeper rabbit hole.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right. So in all that being said, are you religious?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm an ordained minister. I don't know if you know that.
So you can marry somebody.
Yeah.
My brother Anthony's ordained minister.
Nice. Yeah. You call me Reverend Mitchell G. Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's not even that I think. I practice as though I was an ardent Christian. I behave as though I was an ardent Buddhist. And I am disciplined as though I was an ardent Muslim. So I try to maintain a certain foundational discipline just as a human that is echoed through every religion, but is more prominently echoed in certain religious sects, S.S.T. And I truly believe Christianity, that's what separates it from nearly every other religion, is the amplitude in which it articulates certain fundamental beliefs like living in truth. Because that's all Christianity is about, is living in truth. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Long-winded answer.
Hey, but it was worth it, you know?
Hell yeah, brother.
Boy, was trying to figure out what the fifth dimension was. You know?